Okay, welcome back. We're going to continue this here. We're still wandering around the ruined city of Rellenia. Very grim. And up here, through these two bushes, there's a looks like the former I don't know, elven palace where the royalty is. I guess Queen Ariana would have lived here. And it got rebuilt eventually in a different part of town, which you can see in Master of the Wind. But this part is pretty interesting for me to revisit. Because I spent a lot of time in the last episode going on about the political subtext of the game, and that stuff's intentional. But there's a lot of personal subtext. It's like another layer of very personal subtext, and that's not intentional. Winds up in there anyway, and it's more visible years later than it is at the time, and it's it can be uncomfortable at times, but it can also be really interesting too, and probably cathartic, I suppose, without really being aware of that. Because what he's going on about here is that Arius expects everybody to treat him with his past as Lysander in mind. He can't understand why anybody wouldn't, and so he can't understand why anybody would be nice to him, basically. And I guess I must have felt like that about my own past, though not to such an extreme degree. But now we're going into this very lengthy dream sequence of his, where he's just passed out, and this whole scene is pretty much my you could call it a tribute, I guess. That's probably a homage. I don't want to say rip-off, but maybe there's a little bit of that in there too. Homage to the director Satoshi Kon, who made a series of anime films and one TV show that they were all outstanding. And I've even got the music from Millennium Actress, one of his movies, going here. And he was very good at kind of taking thought patterns, really chaotic thought patterns, and making them into cinema. Just visualizing them and kind of making the audience have to follow closely and stay on their toes and that kind of thing. And it's not this bit here, this long sequence, isn't quite as ambitious and as sometimes confusing as those movies can be. But there was definitely a big inspiration, and unfortunately, sorry, a little up my throat or whatever. Unfortunately, Satoshi Kon passed away a couple years ago, stomach cancer, and it to me that was just as bad as the Heath Ledger thing. It just, all of a sudden the guy wasn't that old, and all of a sudden he's gone, and all the movies that you thought that he was going to make, it just won't happen, and it was sad. So I think this is a little more meaningful now, almost, that I chose to do the sequence this way. And this is the last of Arius' flashbacks. This is the big one. This is where he's going to finally, get his head around who Lysander is, and why Lysander is the way he is, and what he wants to do. And what we're seeing here is a bunch of snippets about Lysander learning the Gallia way of life, and his father was hardcore about Gallia, and really wanted Lysander to grow up to follow in his footsteps. And the mother, though, was not, and neither was Molly. And it was almost like the father raised Lysander, the mother raised Molly, with completely different views of the world. And there's a lot of friction in their family. But Lysander really wanted his father's approval, so whatever doubts he might have had early on, were just kind of pushed down. Because at the core, he's probably more inclined to be like Molly and his mother, and to be kind of more compassionate. Because you can see that with Arius, in the sense that once Lysander loses his memory and gets a chance to start over, he gravitates towards, compassion, towards acceptance, towards all these things. And without that influence of the whole Gallia hierarchy, the results are different. But on the other hand, it's not like he doesn't have any influences. He's got Galdar and all the others around, and he and so they kind of shaped him a little bit. So that's it's a whole nature versus nurture thing. You can almost, in that case, the title, the clean slate title, doesn't just mean that you lose your memory and you start over. It also means that pretty much everybody is a clean slate when they're born, and people that you encounter or the society that you live in will just sort of write all over it until that kind of shapes who you are in some ways. And that's that kind of is intriguing, because it's hard to tell. It's like how much of anybody's personality is just kind of at the core. Are there certain things that would be the same about somebody no matter where they were raised, no matter who their family was, no matter what kind of environment they were living in? We don't know, and probably never know. But it's interesting to think about. And now Arius is kind of sorting out his feelings here. It's the world's trippiest therapy session, and he realizes that that moment in Harrow, which he referenced in the last time, where he just realized that he could make a difference, where he could fight those undead guys off and make life better for those people. That was a big deal, and he that's what he wants to do. And so he's got to finally reconcile that with the life that he remembers, which is Lysander's life. And we're getting very quick glimpses of him getting married and now Leonard being born. And Lysander says something to Leonard, basically the same thing that his father said to him, Hamilbarca, that you're going to grow up like me. And then that's when it hits Arius, that he's got a chance to kind of do right by Leonard and sort of stop that cycle. And now he's following an apparition of Nova out of this whole collection of memories from Lysander's life, and but now he has to actually face Lysander, who doesn't say anything. He kind of just lets Arius yell at him for a few minutes, and so that's pretty much how that goes down. And it's like I said, this is not as complex as the Satoshi Kon stuff, but it was definitely inspired by it. And I'm glad that now, in retrospect, I'm glad I did it this way, because it's my way of paying tribute to that guy, because he was a huge inspiration. And anyway, now we are back in Rellenia, and they don't know what his deal is. He's been passed out for several minutes now, and Turnus thinks the little that little slap he gave him before is the reason he's unconscious, but that's not quite it. But now he's stirring, and he wakes up, and he's almost a different person again, or at least a happier person. But there's actually a funny bit here where Arius says, "I feel great," and then Galdar is like, "Well, really, you were miserable a short while ago," and he was like, "Well, geez, guys, a lot's happened since then." So he just has a lot of. He came out of that sequence, he got to experience a lot of other memories at once, and he came out of it with a lot more experience and perspective about what's going on, and he has a better idea of who he is. He has some line here where he says that he's 33. That's his age. It's sort of oddly exact. I think if I were to write it now, I would say just over 30. But whatever. I thought the exact numbers of age were important for some reason when I was doing this. So he understands now that he doesn't really have to keep beating himself up for what Lysander did. But at the same time, he feels a responsibility to Leonard now that he knows that that's his son, and he wants to get him away from the whole Gallia lifestyle. And anybody who's played Master of the Wind knows that they have mixed success with that goal, to put it mildly. But for now, they are planning the next move. And we're going to Port Vincent, which you guys know as Port Ariana. Yeah, so that's pretty cool, huh? And actually, there's a lot of some of the layout is similar. Oh, actually, we'll talk about this first. He takes this little brick from the ruins to remind him, just of Rellenia, because it made this profound impact on him. And it's gonna. I don't know why I came up with that. I think it's because when I was when I studied abroad in England, I went to Castle Tintagel, and I was walking up this ancient staircase, and the piece of the step actually snapped off. And I just kind of picked it up and, looked around, make sure nobody was looking at me, and stuffed it in my pocket. And it's still in my house. It's the oldest thing in my house. It's castle is 1,000 years old. But anyway, so we're on our way to Port Ariana. See, check this shit. There's the Terre Mountains right next to it. Oh, I forgot about this. Before we go in there, we're going to see Lysander come back to Gallia. He's back, but his goals have changed a little bit. At the beginning of the game, it was all about you have to go back and get some more troops to go back and deal with Guardia. But he's going to find out that there's enough problems in the city that he's got to deal with, before he just ships back out again. So the whole kind of stakes of the game have changed. In the beginning it was all about protect Guardia, but now it's kind of evolved into protect the world, and they both think they're doing that. But now we are in Port Vincent, and you can see, just like in Master of the Wind, you've got this little ridge there with grass underneath it, and then you walk up into the proper town. The rest of the layout is probably not as consistent. But now Galdar is going to use the transformation stone that we got from Queen Ariana. And this is a funny gag. I was pretty happy with this. Because he's a Minotaur, but he turns into this super suave blonde guy. And he gets to walk around town like that. And and it kind of brings out a different side of him. He's a funnier side, because there's a lot of just comedy in that situation. And Nova says, we're not going to be able to keep the girls off you. And then Galdar's got this line here. Yeah. It's pretty good. And don't ruin it, Turnus. And so now we're going to walk around town and get us a ship to Gallia. But for now, we'll put a stop to this and start walking around town next time. Peace.